Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Stitch Sessions. We are getting closer and closer to that spooky date, October 31st, where we're hopefully getting back out and doing some trick-or-treating with the kids. And for this week's project, I thought making these fingerless gloves would be a perfect add-on to your evening. Now, this can be made for a child or it can be made for an adult. And I called it the Tricky Treat Fingerless gloves because of the fact that there aren't any fingers on it. You can always hide a couple of your own treats inside the glove. But in any case, these are really handy for people that are constantly using their devices or things like that when they're out and about. And it gives you free access to using your fingers and your thumbs to work those devices. It's really fun to make. It's using the ALPINE stitch technique. And for those of you that did the ALPINE purse, you may recall this stitch. It's such a beautiful stitch. It creates beautiful, gorgeous texture, and you can use it in a variety of different ways. Now, I just used it as a little accent to create a little pop in this glove design. So don't be intimidated if you're a little bit newer, as long as you know how to double crochet. And I'm going to talk you through how to front post that double crochet. You're going to be a-okay. I'll also leave a few links for some of our front post crochet stitch lessons down below for you to reference as well. Now, if you're new here, make sure you press that subscribe button and come hang out with me every week when I upload a brand new tutorial every Wednesday morning. And don't forget to click that notification bell, and that way you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. Now, in the meantime, let's get to the craft table and get our materials together and stitch up our very own Tricky Treat fingerless gloves. All right, let's get into our materials. So I am using some leftover yarn, which this project is perfect for using leftovers. You may recognize some of these colors. I use these colors both in the Black Cat tutorial for the granny square. I also used actually both of these colors to create the cabled hat, which you will have seen in the most recent tutorial. So believe it or not, after that hat and the black cat, I still had a little bit left over of this gorgeous yarn. I just love it. So in case you're wondering or haven't seen those tutorials, this is Lion Brand's Heartland yarn, and it comes in quite a variety of gorgeous colors, and it's just so soft and pliable. I love working with it. I do forget what color this is, but it's like a beautiful amber color. It's just gorgeous. So I've got a little bit left over of that, which I actually won't need more than this. And the dark gray color I have here is the Impeccable yarn, and that's by Loops and Threads. And I believe this one is called Dark Charcoal. So I've got a chunk of each here. So I would recommend at least 2 colors to bring about the design that we're working on. I also have, as usual, a handy darning needle and a trusty pair of scissors to snip off your yarn. And the hook size I am using for today's project is a 5.5 millimeter hook, which is also known as a size I or a 9, depending on how you label your hooks. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with our dark color here, and I'm just going to take one of my mittens that I've already created here, and we are going to start by working the cuff of the glove first and then work our way up. So we are actually going to start with a chain that goes around the wrist. Now, depending on if you're making this for an adult or a child, the chain length will vary. Now, this size was made for an adult, so it actually fits me, okay? So the average chain length for an adult glove or mitten is usually to chain between 24 and 26. If you are doing this for a child, their wrist is obviously much smaller. You may only need 15, 16 chains. I would say anywhere between 12 to 16 chains, again, depending on the child. Your best bet is to take the number of chains and measure it around the wrist. But you want to really watch when we're doing our initial chain, because that first chain row tends to tighten up. So you want to make sure that it still has a lot of stretch and give so that the person can put their hand through it. Now, if you happen to be a tight crocheter, I actually recommend you, for the very first row, going up a hook size. So I have a 5.5. I would recommend you using a 6 or even a 6.5 if you are a tight crocheter. It's really important that there's some flexibility in that first foundation chain. So you will begin by placing a slip knot on your hook. And then you're going to chain 26. So in my case, I am going to chain 26. And I am just keeping that first chain. See, I'm just keeping it very relaxed and loose. Okay, so I have chained my 26 chains. Now I just want to make sure that it is not twisted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the very first chain, and I just want to slip stitch to join my chain into a ring. And this will be the base of the cuff of my glove. So hopefully you can see that okay there. I know darker yarn is always not the best on camera, but this darker gray seemed to be okay. Okay, so you've created a ring, and now we're going to work our very first round. And if you had gone up a hook size, I would actually recommend you still hang on to that hook for this first round, which is going to be a round of single crochets. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that tail there. Okay, so you will chain 1, and then see that very first chain there? What you're gonna do is you're gonna go into that chain and you're gonna single crochet. Now, what I like to do for these types of projects, and I did this in our classic cowl project, is I actually like to turn the chain over so we're working into the back bump. So you'll see there's bumps that sit there. So I will find the bump and I'll just help the hook through and I'll single crochet into the back. Okay, see that bump right there? That would be the next bump. So you do have to help them along, and I'll single crochet. And I'll just show you with this glove that's already finished. See how the edge just shows this beautiful finished side there? It just really gives it a nice flat finish, and that's why I do the back bumps. You don't have to, and if it frustrates you, because it can, especially if you're a newer crocheter, just go directly into the chain. It's not the end of the world, but I just wanted to explain why I'm doing it this way in case you're wondering what's up with that. So what we're doing is we're basically just placing one single crochet into every stitch all the way around. And so at the end, I'm going to have 26 stitches. So go ahead and do that all the way around, and I'll meet back up with you when you're ready to join your first round. Okay, I have done 26 stitches, and I'm right back to where I started. So you can see my tail is just turning up a little bit, which is actually perfect because I want to work over that tail. If it distracts you, you can weave that in later on. But what I'm going to do now to join my round is I'm going to find the top of that very first stitch we did, which is right there. Again, I know it might be tricky to see with the gray. Okay, and I'm just going to slip stitch to join. So if you started with 26 chains, you should still have 26 stitches in total. So for round 2, what we're going to do is we're actually going to chain 1 and then go right back into the same spot where you slip stitched, okay? And I tend to use this method for things exactly like gloves and sometimes even hats. So we'll chain 1, and then we're going to go back into that little side loop there of the chain 1, that leg, and then we're going to single crochet into there. And what that does is it creates what I call a self-contained double crochet, and it gives it some thickness, so that way there's no gaps. A lot of people will do a chain 3, which I do a lot, except for projects like this. I tend to do the single crochet on top of a single crochet. Again, you can use your chain 3 if you wish. Okay, so we're going to use double crochets now for round 2. And all you're going to do is you're going to go into each stitch. So the next stitch is right there. And you're going to double crochet 1 into each. And again, you should end up with 26 stitches in total. And when you get to the end, you want to slip stitch to the top of your very first double crochet to join your round. If you have any troubles, like sometimes these rounds start to lean a little bit, just use a stitch marker or a safety pin just to remind you where that first stitch is, okay? So go ahead and do that, 1 double crochet into each, and I'll meet you at the end of round 2. Okay, so I've just finished my 26th double crochet, and I'm gonna find the top of that very first stitch we created, and I'm gonna slip stitch to join. And round 2 is complete. And always around this time is when I like to, see how comfortable it is to get off and on. I actually like mine to sit a little bit kind of loosely. So just want to check that this is the perfect time to do this, because if you have to undo it, it's only 1 row, right? Or 2 rows, I should say. So you don't want to get halfway through up your glove, which has happened to me. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to create the ribbing for our cuff, okay? And so this is where we're going to use front and back post stitches. Man, oh man, the last few weeks we've been doing a lot with front and back post stitches. You guys are going to get so well versed in these stitches. So what we're going to do, again, to begin, you're going to do a regular double crochet. You can either chain 3 or use the method that I use, which is chain 1 single crochet, and then go into that loop again, pull up a loop, and finish like a single crochet. So you see, it creates nice height there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to work alternatively front post double crochet and back post double crochet. Again, this will be very reminiscent of especially the cowl we did, right? So you will yarn over, and instead of going into the stitch, you are going to go in between the stitches so you can push that post forward. As always, if you're new to this, I really recommend you referring to my lesson on identifying parts of your stitch. I talk about that a lot. It will really help you to understand where to place your hook, okay? So once you're there, you're going to pull up a loop, and you're going to resolve it like a regular double crochet. So you would pull through the first 2, and then you yarn over and pull through the second 2, okay? So right now it doesn't look like much yet, but it's pushing or it's pulling that post forward to create that rib. Now in the next stitch, what we're going to do is we're going to work a back post double crochet. So instead of going in through the front, we're going to come in through the back and around. So we're pushing the post to the back, okay, just like that. And then you'll bring a loop through, be careful not to snag it. And then you resolve it like a regular double crochet. You pull through 2, and then you pull through 2, okay? So this one is a front post. So I think you can see now. This is a front post, and this is a back post, so it's behind there. And now we just repeat that. The next one would be a front post double crochet. Okay, so pull through 2, pull through 2. And the next one is a back post double crochet. And don't be afraid to kind of pull apart your work a little bit. It will all go back to normal and relax once the project is done. Okay, so now you can start seeing that it's coming forward. Okay, so again, if I pick this up, you're going to see that beautiful ribbed effect. And that's what you're going to do all the way around. Okay, so just finish doing a back. You're going to do a front, back, all the way until you come back to your very first stitch. Okay, so I've just created my last stitch, which was a front post stitch. And then my next stitch is the regular double crochet. So all we're going to do is we're just going to slip stitch to the top of that one, to join round 3. Okay, there we go. So now you can really see it's got some really nice texture. I love this technique. Okay, so now what we have to do is you just want to build up the height of your cuff. And for mine, I repeated round 3 2 more times. Okay, so I did the post stitches for 3 rounds in total. Okay, so let me just pull that apart so I can show you here. So this first section was the single crochet round. Then we had our regular double crochets. I'm not sure you can make that out very well. And then we started creating our post stitches for 1, 2, and 3 rows, okay? So in total, you will have 5 rows of your cuff. The first round, sorry, I say rows, it's round. First round is the single crochet round. The second round was the round we did with just regular double crochets. Then round 3, 4, and 5 are going to be your front and back post double crochets. So you're going to repeat this last round 2 more times. So as always, you chain 1 to begin, go back into that same stitch, single crochet, and then go into the leg of that stitch and single crochet again. Okay, now what you're going to do is very, very easy to repeat this because whatever you see is whatever you're going to do. So the very first stitch, you see it's a front post, so you front post. Okay. And now the next stitch you see it's a back post, so you back post. So now they're much easier to find what stitch to do where. And see, it's just going to accentuate that ribbing. So go ahead and repeat round 3 for round 4 and round 5, and I'll meet you back here when you've done that. Okay, I have completed my 5th round. So you can see really the ribbing coming through now on that cuff. I just love that. Okay, moving on, we are going to go back to doing single crochets. So what we want to do now is just get this part of the cuff just to nip in a wee bit. And that's just because of the way the design came out, just to kind of show a little bit of shaping inward before we come back out again. So in this case, we are going to chain 1 and go right back into the spot where we slip stitched and single crochet. And then we're simply going to single crochet into every stitch, and I'm just pulling that apart there so you can see. And for this round, which is round 6, I'm actually going to stitch a little bit more snugly. So in the past I've said try not to be too tight with your stitches. But for here I do want to just snuggle this in a bit. And so I just want it to be very subtle, but just to give it a little bit of shape because we are going to be increasing our stitches in the next round. But for now, just 1 single crochet into each stitch. And it's really going to give a differentiation from the ribbing. Okay, and I'm just slip stitching to join, and I've now completed round 6. So you've got your really defined cuff. Now, round 7 is going to be 1 more round of single crochet stitches, but now we want to increase the number of stitches. So we're going to increase it in 4 spots, okay? So what we're going to do is you're going to chain 1, single crochet right back into where you did before, and we're going to place another single crochet right back into that spot. So that's our first increase. Next, you're going to place 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now into the next stitch, we are going to place our increase. So we have 1 and then 2. Go back into that same stitch. Okay, so technically we've increased in the 7th stitch. For the next set of stitches, you want to place 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 and increase in the 6th stitch. Then you will do 6 single crochets and increase in the 7th stitch. This should leave you with 6 stitches left, okay? So because we have 26 stitches, we want to increase 4 times to give us 30 stitches. So 26 divided by 4 gives us an odd number. So that is why in this first set here we had an increase. We did 6 stitches, then in the 7th we increased, and so on and so on. So just pause here and I'll leave it written on the screen too, just to kind of remind you where to place your increases. And once you've completed round 7, you will slip stitch to join, and then we will move on to the heel of our hand in our glove here, okay? So I'll meet you back here shortly. Okay, so I'm just at the end of my round and I'm going to slip stitch to join. And I've now completed round 7 and I have a total of 30 stitches around. So you should be able to see that just slightly, ever so subtly nips in, and now it's starting to flare out. That's exactly what we want. Now we're going to go on to round 8, and with round 8 we're going to go back up to doing double crochet stitches because we are getting ready to work in that alpine stitch effect with our secondary color. So we are now going to set up our base rows here so we can begin that alpine stitch. So we are going to chain 1 and single crochet back into that same space. So we're going to create the height of our stitch like we've been doing so far in this project. So single crochet and then go back into that side leg there and single crochet again. And that's going to give us the height of our double crochet stitch, okay? And so for round 8, all you're going to do now is place 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around. Really nice and simple. 1 into each stitch, and at the end of round 8, you should still have 30 stitches. So go ahead and do that, and we'll then talk about going on to round 9. Okay, round 8 is complete, and now you can really see that that cuff is really becoming nice and prominent. I like to try it on, make sure it feels okay. So this is perfect for me. It's snug, but it's really a relaxed fit, and I can see it's just creating a nice little flare for my hand, which is perfect. Okay, round 9 is still another setup row, or round, I should say. And what I mean by setup is what you see here with these front post stitches. They're created because we go down a couple of rounds, and I'll explain that to you once we get there if you have not done the alpine stitch before. So what we're going to do, let me bring this back. So we've done the double crochet round, and now this little round under here, which helps to create that effect to drop down, is a round of single crochet stitches. So that's what we need to do here. This will be part of the repeat once we get into the alpine stitch. So as usual, you are going to chain 1 and go back into that same stitch and single crochet. And this you should be familiar with. You're just simply going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. You're going to slip stitch to join, and round 9 will be complete. So I'll meet you back here to begin round 10. Okay, so round 9 is complete. So we've got our double crochet round and then our single crochet round. And one thing I do want to preface this with is a lot of times for mittens in general or gloves, you would see people probably doing a few more increases along the way, and you can certainly do that. So during your double crochet round, if you found that you wanted your, you needed your glove to flare out a little bit more, that round and the single crochet round would have been the perfect times to add more stitches. So you can, in working in the round, I like to increase in all 4 corners, so to speak. So 1 on each side and then 1 forward and back. Otherwise, for me, because I want this one to sit a little bit more snugly, it is a fingerless glove after all, I just increased it once, okay? But again, you may want to add more increases, or if you watch other tutorials, you may see other people do that. But I just wanted to let you in on that. Now, we are on to round number 10, and this is where we're going to bring in our next color. Okay, I just needed to kind of undo that slip stitch because we are changing colors. And if you want to make your color transition smooth, what you want to do is, as you are getting ready to slip stitch to join this round, you'll still insert your hook. But instead of hooking the color you currently have, this is where you're going to introduce your new color. Okay, so for now I'm just keeping that color A aside, and I'm just going to introduce my new color here. Now, some people will go ahead and put a slip knot on that color first. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to use that. I'm going to pull it through and then pull it through my original color. And you're just going to want to give that a little bit of a pull. Okay, so that has just finished the slip stitch from the previous round, and it'll make it much more natural for this color to come up through here. So once you've gotten it through, then you're going to chain one, which is what I'm doing here. Okay, and then now I'm going to go back into that same stitch, and I'm going to single crochet, and I'm just working over that tail. And if you feel more comfortable leaving a longer tail and knotting it, then by all means go ahead and do that. So I've got that single crochet, and now I'm just going to chain one. Okay, so we are now going to work front post stitches, very similar to what we did here, with a little bit of a twist. So in the very next stitch, which is right here, you're going to go down into the row below, or the round below. So remember, the last round we did was single crochets. The round below that was the round of double crochets. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a front post double crochet in the row below the previous round. Okay, so not the single crochet row, but the round below that where the double crochets are. See how you can push that post forward? And you are going to do a front post. But what you want to do is, as you pull that loop through, you want to stretch it up so that it's going to be similar to the height of the row you're working on. So remember, this stitch is dipping down a little bit. And then you resolve it like a regular double crochet. You pull through two, see how loose that is? And then you pull through the next two, okay? And now that front post looks a lot different than this one because we've dipped down 2 rounds lower. Okay, now the very next stitch, we're just going to do a regular double crochet. Now what you want to be careful is, if I push that back here, sometimes people make the mistake of wanting to go right into that very next stitch, but that one is on top of the post. So you're going to go into the one after that, which you should be able to see there. Hopefully you guys can see that with the gray yarn. Okay, so that is the stitch I'm going into. So I'm actually going to work a double crochet into that stitch. Okay, just like that. Okay. So you're alternatively going to do a regular double crochet and then a front post, a regular, a front post, and so on. And that's going to give you that dropped tier effect. So in the next stitch, we want to do a front post. Now be careful, we're not working this next post because we just worked the actual stitch. So you're going to go into the post beside that, and you are going to do a front post double crochet, and I'm going to stretch that up a little bit, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Okay, there we go. And now into the very next stitch, you're going to do a regular double crochet. So this is kind of how I gauge it. As my stitches are sitting nice and straight up, I just see what's the next stitch I can see, and it's that one right there. So I'm going to place a regular double crochet into that. Okay, and then the next stitch would be here, but we are now going to work the front post, so we're going to go down to this post. Now remember, you might think, well, how come I'm not going down there? It looks like it goes straight down there. Remember that your loops always sit to the right of the stitch. So here's the single crochet, the loop is there, but if I follow that stitch down, you see the post is there. And as always, I like to recommend you guys to refer to a lesson, a crochet lesson I did all about identifying parts of your stitch. And this will make a lot more sense if you have a look at that. I'll leave a link for that in the description down below. I'm just finishing off my last one there. So now you can see when we alternate, it creates that really, really cool effect. So that's where in this one, you can see how it dropped down? That's how we created that effect, okay? So that is row 10. So go ahead and do that all the way around, and I will meet you at the end. And this is my very last front post stitch and my 30th stitch, by the way. So I know that I've completed my round, and now I'm going to find the top of that chain one that I did right there. I'm going to insert my hook and I'm going to slip stitch to join. And I didn't go as tall as the other ones the way I normally start the rounds, because I knew that the front posts were going to dip down lower, so I didn't want this to be too high. So now you can see, look at how cool that effect is. Okay, so that is the alpine stitch, the alternating effect of the front post double crochets and the fact that they are dipping 2 rows down. So in order to finish the stitch or the effect, we now need to do another round of single crochet stitches, which is what we did previously when we set this up, okay? So you will chain 1 and then go back into that same stitch and you will single crochet. And so for round 11, you're simply just going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch. Okay, so very straightforward, every single stitch all the way around. Now when you get to the end, we're going to change back to our color A. So I'll meet back up with you shortly just to take you through that. So I've just finished round 11. And I'm getting ready to slip stitch to join, but remember we're going to change colors now. So I'm going to insert my hook as usual, but now I'm going to drop this color and I want to pick up my original color. So there it is there. I'm going to pick up that color, and that is what I'm going to pull through to slip stitch to join. And don't forget to pull that one a little bit. And now we are going to repeat row 10 and 11 again. So we start with a chain 1, okay? And whoops, we're gonna single crochet back into that same stitch. And then I'm gonna chain 1, just to give me enough height. Okay, so what's gonna be just slightly different, even though it's a total repeat of the same round, the effect of the alpine stitch is to alternate where you place your front post stitches from the previous set of rounds you did before. So whereas previously we would have done a front post double crochet into the very next post, but see how that would be already done? We want to do them alternatively. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by placing 1 regular double crochet into the very first stitch, and that's it right there. So technically it looks like you've got 2 double crochets in a row, okay? Now into the next one, which hopefully will be a little easier to see, is where we're gonna place our front post double crochet. So remember, that's the single crochet round, and then the next one down is right here. So there's the post of the double crochet 2 rounds down. So we're going to insert our hook to get that post forward. And double crochet, remember to pull up a little bit, let it stretch, pull through 2 and pull through 2. Okay, so you can see now the effect. Well, you can kind of start seeing the effect. So in the next stitch, we're going to do a regular double crochet. So remember the stitch I can see, it's right there. And I'm going to insert and place a regular double crochet. And then I'm gonna find the next post, unworked post right there. And I'm gonna do a front post double crochet. I'm gonna stretch that up a little bit, pull through 2 and through 2. So hopefully now you can start seeing the effect, okay? So now with the alternating colors, you can really see where that teardrop effect is happening. So this was the front post stitch of the previous round of the Alpine. And now in this round, we're doing it in the spaces where there were no front post stitches. And that's how you're gonna work this pattern. So you're gonna repeat the same thing for round 12, alternating between front post and regular stitches. And then in round 13, you're gonna come back around and do single crochets all the way around, okay? So it's a 2-round repeat. One has the front post alternatively, and one has the single crochet stitches. And remember that when you're doing the front post, you want to go in between the front posts of the previous round, okay? That is the stitch repeat right now. And you're going to repeat what you did here for a total of 4 sets. So if I pick up this original mitten that I did, so that was our first set of the Alpine, right? Then we brought in our original color. That's the second round. We did it a 3rd time, and then we repeated it a 4th time. So you can see where it alternates. So you've got the amber color, the charcoal amber, and then the charcoal. So at the end of your repetitions, you will complete round 17. Once you do that, I will meet back up with you then, because for me, that's going to get us very close to working up our thumb hole there. Okay, so you've got a few rounds to repeat. Press pause, and I will meet you back here in a bit. Okay, I have completed row 17. So now I have something that looks like this. And if I put it next to my other glove here, can see they're pretty comparable. So what we're going to do now, so I finished row 17, or round 17 I should say, with the single crochet round. We're going to do 2 more rounds of single crochets before we get ready to do our thumb hole, okay? So for me, I just basically put on the glove and see, so I'm almost there, because soon we're going to create a little crossways here for the hole. So we need a couple more rounds to make that happen. So we're going to do 2 more rows of single crochet stitches. So as usual, you chain 1 and go right back into that same stitch. You know the drill. So for now, I'm still going to leave this amber color here because we've got 1 more row we're going to do in a moment where we're going to bring that back in. Okay, so I'll meet you back here when you've completed round 18 and 19. Okay, I've completed row 18 and 19. So I have something that looks like this, and you can see that I've already switched to my color when I slip stitched. We're going to do 1 more round using this amber tone, and that's just going to create that nice little subtle detail. And again, single crochets, but we are also going to be creating our thumb hole in this round as well. So at this point, I have tried my glove on, and I'm pretty happy with it. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm making this for the left hand, I want my seam to kind of come across here, okay? If you're trying this on for your right hand, you're going to want the seam to come across this way, okay? So if you're doing it on your right hand, which I've already done one for my right, you're going to chain 1, single crochet all the way around until you get to where it's going to fit comfortably with your thumb, and then you're going to skip across just like I'm going to do with the left hand. So right now, this is the one I'm doing, and that is for the left hand, okay? So because basically I'm going to create the thumb hole right away for this one, once you've switched colors, okay, you're going to chain 1, and go back into that same stitch to single crochet. Okay, and I'm actually going to do one more single crochet here just to give me a little wiggle room, so to speak. Once I do 2, I'm going to chain 1, and now you may want to use a safety pin or some kind of a stitch marker for this. Okay, I just love my figure it out as I go along method. So wherever that is, that chain 1 is, I'm going to take it and I'm going to pinch it right there. And I would safety pin this so that you can then take your hand out and continue to crochet. I'm just going to hold it. That feels pretty comfortable for me. My thumb's in there nicely. So I'm going to take my hand out, and now I'm going to count the number of stitches I'm going to skip. So for me, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. And into this 7th stitch is where I'm going to pick up my round. Okay, so I've got my work here. Just going to push aside first color. So I'm skipping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and into the 7th. I just go ahead, skip all of those. I'm going to go into the 7th, and I'm going to single crochet into there. And there you go. You've created your thumb hole opening, okay? And now you're just going to continue on. This is round 20, okay? And 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around, okay? When you get to the end, you are going to slip stitch and snip your yarn here because we are now finished with this color, okay? So go ahead and finish round 20, and I'll meet back up with you in a moment. Okay, so I've snipped my yarn, I've completed round 20, and now what we're going to do is we're just going to create the rest of the lip for the top part there. So we've created the thumb hole. I like how that feels, nice and easy, okay? And so now what we're going to do is we're going to create these last few rounds here. So we've got 4 more rounds, and they're all single crochet stitches. And I'm just going to take you through the beginning here, although you should be a pro at doing single crochets by now. Whoops, I got to sew in the rest of my tail there. Okay, I'm going to chain 1, go back into that stitch. Just going to take you across the thumb hole opening there. So we've got single crochet, and of course we have another single crochet in there. And now we have our chain 1. Remember that chain 1? Now some people may go into the space. So there you have it, the Tricky Treats Fingerless Gloves. I hope you enjoyed working on this project, and I'm always curious to see what color combinations you guys choose. So make sure to tag me on Instagram or Facebook at The Stitch Sessions. And if you're new here, don't forget, press that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you'll always know every time I upload a brand new video, which is every Wednesday morning. Now, if you have any questions, just pop me a comment in the comment box down below, or you can always email me directly at info@crochetcrafty.com. And come and hang out there on the website at Crochet Crafty and sign up for my monthly newsletter. I give away a free written pattern every month. And also check out our Etsy shop at Crochet Crafty Canada, where we've got more written patterns for you to check out. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Happy crocheting, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the next session. Bye-bye.